What's up, everybody? Sloppy Joe here. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk watches, in particular Vostok Russian automatic watches. These two watches in particular are a Amphibia model. And actually, let me do this. So they're both Amphibia 200 meter dive watches. This one I bought about 2 months ago, and I bought this from an eBay seller who is located in the city Kristopol in Russia, where the factory was. The factory experienced some money issues a couple years ago, so I don't know if they're currently making watches. I don't believe so. I think right now you can just buy spare parts and things from them, and you may be able to send your watch to them for service. I'm not positive on that, but in any case, there's a seller on eBay. I don't recall his name off the top of my head. I apologize for that. But he, I believe, bought up a lot of their inventory and is selling them. So I paid, I think, $75 for this guy a couple months ago, and that was to my door. The downside is it took a month to get, but I've really enjoyed it, I have to say, for $75. Fully automatic, self-winding, Russian movement. And that is something that a lot of the big Swiss players can't even claim. A lot of them buy movements from a movement maker. There's a couple of them, and install them into their cases, but they don't make their own movements. Now, on some of their very high-end limited edition watches, yes, they do make their own movements. But on the, in that world, what is considered a everyday man's watch, a $2,000 or $3,000 watch, the movements are all pretty much. You can see several watchmakers using the same movement, and you can see the dial face is all very similarly designed because of that. But Vostok, since their inception in after World War II, up until the time that they quit making watches a couple years ago, they always made their own in-house movements. And the Amphibia, which is what these are, they used a 31 jewel movement. Again, fully automatic, self-winding, which is very cool. In the watch world, if you're making your own movement, that's kind of a big deal. Now, granted, it's probably a copy of a Swiss movement, but they were doing it themselves, which is kind of cool. So, if you look at these two, so you'll see this guy, black dial, very basic. This one is a blue dial, stainless steel bracelet. Not a lot of difference there. If you look, if I get this zoomed right, so it says Vostok, not Boktok, it is Vostok. Then, what is going on with my focus? There we go. So, and then underneath the hands here, it's automatic 31 jewels, and then here it says made in Russia, which again is very cool. Some guys I've heard call these more novelty. I would disagree with that. It's a very well-built watch. It's certainly not a $25 Casio or something like that. These are they're very well-built watches, but they're purposeful. I mean, their job is to tell time, we'll say, accurately-ish, and that's what they do. I mean, there's good weight, good thickness, and from what I'm told, they, for a dive watch, they're very good. I've heard stories of Russian submariners taping these to the side of submarines, going down in depth, coming back up, and the watch is fine. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so you can see, slight differences, colors are different, things like that. I would probably say that I will own a couple more of these purely for parts watches. because not knowing the state of what is going to happen at the factory, parts may become very hard to get, if impossible. My local watch repair guy, he's Russian, so he knows these watches very well. This watch, a couple days after purchasing it, I dropped it off a table, and it hit a space heater and put a big gash in the crystal, which he was able to polish out, which it looks beautiful. And he just, for kicks, he went into the case, checked the movement, make sure nothing inside was broken, and it's all good. So, it was a short drop, but, it hit a metal housing on a heater, and did a little damage, but it's all good. So again, this watch I bought on eBay store from a gentleman in Russia. I think that was $75 shipped. This one here, I paid about $65, actually like $68, and I bought it in Ukraine 2 weeks ago. My wife and I were visiting family there, and so I picked this one up at the shopping mall. They had a little kiosk, and I didn't even see it, but my wife noticed it and said, "Joe, Vostoks," and so I got a second one. And I gotta say, I've really, really enjoyed them. They're actually very nice watches. They're very pleasant to wear also. There's good weight, but it's not offensive. You almost forget it's there. That's not necessarily always the case with some of my very expensive watches. They always let you know they're there. These you can almost forget about, especially this one with the rubber strap. It's a very comfortable rubber strap. So this one, this one I forget I'm wearing a lot of the times, which is for me a bonus because I hate jewelry, but I like watches. And the same with this one. The stainless steel bracelet, it's adequate, it's nice, it's not heavy, but it's not the fanciest, nicest bracelet. In all likelihood, I would imagine at some point in the future, this bracelet will break and snap, and I'm just going to replace it with another rubber one, maybe, or a nicer bracelet. Have something put on there. But let's see, what else can I say about them? Like all mechanical watches, they all kind of have a life of their own. This one runs about a minute slow in 24 hours. This one runs about a minute and a half fast in 24 hours. As for setting time and all that, it's all pretty straightforward. You would just unscrew the crown out, and the first click is for winding. So you would unscrew the crown, then you just spin the crown, wind the watch. Setting time, you would pull the crown out all the way, which you think you're going to break it. It feels like it's going to snap, but it's not. You just pull it out, and then you would hold it there, turn it forwards or backwards, and your hands would move. Now, setting the date is the challenge. You cannot just wind through the dates. So what you've got to do is, if I wanted this to say go to 20, or let's just say it's the 25th, what I would have to do is wind the hour hand past 12 over to 3, and then I'd have to back wind it back to 9 o'clock, and then front wind it or forward wind it back to 3. Now, when it passes 12, the date is going to click over, but I've got to go to 3 for it to catch. And then I've got to back wind to 9, and then forward wind to 3, the date will click. So let's say you have to do that 20 times. That's the way you have to do it. And it sucks. It does suck. I do have to admit it. When I bought this watch, I had to set the date, and I think I had to go through 15 or 16 days. So, I just sat at the table while everyone talked and just sat there forward winding, back winding, forward winding, back winding. And, it only took 5 minutes, but it seems like a small eternity when you're just sitting there winding back and forth, back and forth. But, once I did it. And that's it. Every day I just wind them. I'll wear one or the other. Whichever one I don't wear, I just wind. Just to keep it going so I don't have to screw around with the date the next time I wear it. But other than that, good watches for the money. And you should check them out.